This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I just came back from a great vacation in Arkansas with my son, so I'm refreshed, I'm renewed, and we have some great things for you today. I would like to welcome Harriet Suchet to the show.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I want to be real quick. I was trying to say the last show, don't lick the 2-cent Washington stamp. I'm explaining that the SheMac perforation stamps that Jack keeps on asking for me is 1 million times now, that's supposed to have this peyote stuff, that people do have them and they want $17,000 for the stamps or whatever it is. But
do you think they know what's on it that makes it worth $17,000?
I don't know, but if people are getting wind of this, some people might be stupid. Well, let's see if I can be tripping if I lick this stamp. It's funny, but it's not funny. So
All right. Well, I did have an interesting question brought up, which I thought would be great for you and I to discuss. Of course, Nolan is going to be hopping back on with us anytime now. And once he's in, I'll introduce him. But I received from Ezra Kubis a YouTube response or question, should I say, that he stated, I have read things that Darlene, Paul Stein, and Zodiac all had some affiliation with the Black House in San Francisco, and that Levy in the late 60s had called the police stating that he felt that the Zodiac was one of his parishioners. Do you think it's possible that Jack could have been involved in this circle and knew all of them previously?
I think indirectly, because it has a lot to do with, we're talking about a lot about religion lately, so, and a lot of people saying about the satanic circles, which of course they would be experimenting with the LSD. You had the CIA come out with their version of Orange Sunshine during that time period.
Well, but I'm just speaking in regards to this question right now, not any of the other things. But he's asking if I felt that there was some involvement. Now, I don't know why, if he was involved with these people in the Black House, that he would then turn around and want to kill them. That doesn't make any sense. No. I do know that there is some connection, because the Zodiac writes Hearst or writes the newspaper in regards to the SLA. So there is some indications there that there was involvement, or at least some interest in what they were doing, especially around the time when they abducted Patty Hearst. But I thought that was an extremely interesting question, because we are seeing everything circle around. So I just basically answered that the Zodiac spoke of underground societies and wrote about the SLA at the time Patty Hearst had been abducted. It may make some sense why I feel that he is either harassing Hearst or using his newspapers to facilitate the messages. In fact, one of the things that we're going to step into right now is the statement or the written little list letter by the Zodiac. So I'm going to move forward into that, because I actually was in the middle of this research when I found the YouTube request or question in regards to it. So I did have 2 people that were murdered in San Francisco. Both were prostitutes. Both were African American. I'm not sure if the communications at the time are indicative of him changing his MO. But we had on August 4th, 1970, 23-year-old Brenda Vance in San Francisco, who was a prostitute. She suffered blows to her head, numerous burns of her torso and chest, and she was African American. On August 30th, 1970, 22-year-old Janice Smith in San Francisco, also a prostitute, suffered blows to the head, severe mutilation, including removal of nipple from left breast, which I found was consistent with Black Dahlia. But we are now seeing a change, obviously, in an MO, because now these are no longer white co-eds or females. Now we're having the African-American insertion of the MO. Both of these people were, and I'm not sure how they know this, but they said both abducted at gunpoint and taken to an abandoned building for the murder. So it does speak some volumes about what we talked about last week in regards to the radian theory, where Dennis believed that once the radians had been established, that the Zodiac then began abducting his victims from one place and dropping them on the radian line to secure the deal that it was him. Does that make sense?
I think I would have to be looking at how their evidence is laid out. He may be involved, but we're talking about the CIA, Sam Giancana's cocaine, peyote, the modern day peyote, not from 1902. But so there's a connection there. It's a tit for tat. Not but so it makes sense in a weird way, but he's probably not the one killing them. It's people involved in the dark side of CIA. It's the dark guys trying to go after the lighter guys. Not as far as race. Oh, how you doing, Nolan?
Check your audio in settings, Nolan. We don't check your settings. So go to the bottom of the page, click on settings, go in and make sure that it's recognizing all of your headset. And
that's what I was doing pre-show. I said, well, I said for half an hour, I said, no, I got to take it to the guy who, I have an IT guy now. I guess
right?
He's fabulous. So, yeah.
Everybody needs an IT guy. Well, let's move on with this while he figures out his audio. Hopefully we can get him on. Or just unplug it, Nolan. Unplug your headset and see if your audio works. I have no sound from him. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Everybody's frozen except me.
No, I'm not frozen. I'm right here. All right. Anyways, so one of the things that I noticed in the Mikado poem that was actually sent by the Zodiac, and then the little list letter that was written by the Zodiac, was that the Mikado actually said there's the nigger serenader and others of his race. And obviously he's stating that these people would not be missed and that they are on his list. But the Mikado claimed the actual word nigger wouldn't be missed. And now we have 2 African Americans murdered in San Francisco. So I was wondering if there was a correlation, since these murders occurred around the time that the actual letters were being sent. I would normally have put these murders out of my mind and presentation due to victimology. However, we know that the Zodiac changes his MO, and children are not off the table for this sicko as well. As we're going to see in the Atlanta, Georgia child killer, that is still to come, and they were all African-American children. So the Zodiac's little list letter is void of the word nigger, as the actual play was executed with. I put in there for me to research that so I could compare the 2 letters, and the Zodiac actually wrote the words banjo serenader and others of his race. So I had wondered, could he been involved with the SLA, with the, I don't know if it was, what were they called, the Black Panthers, or who was the individuals that were taking a stance against first?
That would be Donald DeFreeze. He was the African American leader. I got some weird things going on here.
There you are. Now we got you, Nolan.
Okay, anyways, yeah. It's clear.
I would say indirectly, a lot going on then. A lot of stuff in the CIA. Wow.
The Symbionese Liberation Army was
prosecuting CIA.
They're the ones that kidnapped Patty Hearst.
Correct.
And Donald Freeze, Sin Q, was the leader. And he underwent mind control experimentation when he was in prison. And I think he was, a lot of people think that the SLA was a CIA MK Ultra operation.
Right.
Yeah, see,
right.
Yeah. I think
that's what
what happened with Jack. He got triggered, and now he's seeing Frank Olson going out the window over and over and over again. So anyways.
So Nolan, just to catch you up real quick, I had an individual who asked that they had read things that Darlene, Paul Stein, and the Zodiac all had some affiliation with the Black House in San Francisco, and that Levy in the late 60s had called the police stating that he felt that the Zodiac was one of his parishioners. He asked, do you think it's possible that Jack could have been involved in this circle and knew all of them previously? With that being said,
The audio was perfect for a minute, and then it started acting up again. I'm going to try the headphones again.
Okay. Well, then I will just say what I need to say, and then that way you can catch up. So in the Mikado poem that was sent, the actual books of the pages of the play that was sent by the Zodiac, the actual poem is written, there's the nigger serenader and others of his race. So he's indicating that African Americans would not be missed, and they are on his list. However, the Zodiac, when he wrote the letter, he wrote the words banjo serenader, which obviously is just an analogy for the African American from way back in the days, instead of actually using the word nigger, which obviously he may then have had an affiliation with the SLA and whatever was going on. So he chose not to use the word nigger, but something more politically correct like banjo serenader. Did you get? Oh, I've lost your audio again.
Yeah, we'll blame it on MK Ultra, the CIA crap. I know, but it's just kind of weird. It's today, and we seem to be having major issues, but you know.
Not major issues. He's just trying to get on with some headsets. We should have probably tried it ahead of time, but are you getting the messages from Juan, Nolan? Nod if you are. Okay, we can't hear him though. Okay. Anyways, back to where I'm at. We are now in September of 1970, and Jack moves into South Lake Tahoe, later bringing Danny Reynolds home with him. I thought this was an extremely strange thing that Dennis mentioned, since Doris Reynolds is recently separated and divorcing Jack. So why would her son, and I'm guessing his age was approximately a sophomore somewhere in high school, allow her 15 or 16-year-old son to move in with the likes of the man that she describes Jack to be. And the reason why she's leaving him is because he is just basically that evil. He's attempted to smother or kill her 3 times. He's walked her into the woods, telling her that he was going to make her dig her own grave. Like some of the most horrible things I can imagine a woman having to go through, then allows her son. And maybe she didn't have control of Danny. Maybe he was literally an outcast or the black sheep moving to his own beat, and he's the one that walked away and left. I have no idea. Either way, he ends up in South Lake Tahoe with Jack, which makes for a pretty interesting story when we get to that point. Also, I wanted to note that in September of 1970, with Jack moving to South Lake Tahoe, we had already had the 13th victim letter come out. So it came out indicating 13. Let's see if we can find that real quick. Definitely before the little list. So here, 13 slaves, in which he's indicating on July 26th of 1970. So that would tell me that victim number 12 went missing or was dead previous to to Donna Lass going missing, correct?
Are you asking me? Because
yeah,
I'm finding that again is actually from 1974, so that makes sense. That even though we're thinking we're looking at 1970, that the person did before that came out. Does that make sense to you? Because
it kind of does, because I know that it isn't for quite some time. What, March of 71? that the missing 12th victim card comes out. So that's still a year ahead. And
yeah,
like you said, if we are being conned about the years that these letters were actually produced, then that's taking a piece of the puzzle and misplacing it to make it even more complicated to solve who's responsible for what's going on.
Yes. See?
Well, this memo here is from the FBI, and I thought this was an extremely interesting memo from the FOIA files from the FBI. It says October 22nd, 1970, General Investigative Division. Zodiac is the alias of the West Coast murderer who claims to have killed 13 people and who is believed by police authorities definitely responsible for 7 murders. Now, I'm not sure who they're talking about these 7 murders at this point in time, because as far as I can tell, they've only attributed 5 murders to the Zodiac, or at least that's the story they'd like to feed us. If we're starting to find out that timelines and events are a little bit skewed by these individuals, then we might understand more by October of 1970 how there is more victims or more murders than we've been made to aware of to this point. It says we are not actively investigating the murders, but conduct out-of-state investigation for local authorities on limited basis. Several Zodiac threats have been mailed, and the Bureau has an extortion case. However, U.S. Attorney has indicated preference for prosecution by local authorities in murder charges. Attached discloses something arrested in Ohio on a charge of murder wherein victims' bodies was mutilated, including the cutting of a Z on her abdomen. 2 Negro prostitutes were found murdered in San Francisco during 8 of 70 with mutilations similar to the Ohio death. San Francisco authorities requested assistance in obtaining major case prints, photographs, and whereabouts of this person during 8 of 70. If approved, Cincinnati will conduct the limited investigation requested. So the reason why I found this interesting is because they've not tied any of Zodiac's doings up to this point to anything out of state that would require their jurisdiction. If they started acknowledging that the Zodiac has operated in different states, it automatically falls into the lap of the FBI. So why are they only looking at it? Now I understand why they're only looking at it as an extortion case, why they've labeled everything in the FBI files as an extortion case, because they're not actively investigating the murders or taking jurisdiction of that. They're only taking jurisdiction of the case as it is involved in the extortion aspect of it. And then they are investigating from that means, because he is clearly using the mail to make threats. So I finally figured that one out. I usually find that another state is looking to stuff their suspect into the Zodiac's mold because their crimes are similar in nature, but not one local law enforcement agency or the FBI ever look at stuffing the Zodiac into the other state's crimes. And I don't understand this. Why haven't they done that? They are being informed that the MOs are similar, and I've seen a definite connection between the activity in other states, and I write about it here. So this would definitely be grounds for the FBI to take over, but they never do. And I completely am at a loss as to why they haven't.
CIA, if there's CIA operating within the borders of the United States. A lot of
we
stuff
still don't have Nolan on. I almost want to say take that headset off, because even if we have a little bit of garbled information stuff going on, we could hear you before.
Yeah, we love you, Nolan. We want to hear you, not just see you.
Right? Well, that brings us to the September 6, 1970, and Donna Lass goes missing. Now, we know Jack has been making his presence known in South Lake Tahoe. We have plenty of indications up to this point that he is in paradise, or he has his slaves in paradise, which I tend to believe is actually in South Lake Tahoe myself. It shows May or June 1970, he moved from San Francisco to South Lake Tahoe, May or June of 1970, Donna Lass moved from San Francisco to South Lake Tahoe, where she went to work at the Sahara Casino as a nurse. And Jack's daughter, Lana, worked for the Sahara Casino as well. And mind you, Donna Lass came from the VA hospital in San Francisco, correct?
She came from the Presidio Hospital. The
okay.
Presidio. She worked at the Army, the Presidio, that hospital.
Gotcha. So there could be an affiliation, and obviously wrapped up in the middle of all this. Yeah, definitely. And we did see the other nurses. So we had 2 nurses that were abducted and killed out of the Sacramento area. And as Jack is writing in the Sacramento area, the Mikado poem and these things that he's mailing out of Sacramento, we start to see murders in Sacramento. Now we know he's moved into the South Lake Tahoe area, and we're starting to see that connection of nurses going missing and being abducted and being killed. And in fact, Donna Lass is really quite like the Sacramento nurses in that she left work, her car was found at home, and then no sign of her. Poof, she's gone. This is identical to what was going on in Sacramento. So I showed that she was a nurse for What's that?
I was going to say real quick, I've done the 2 nurses as far as their evidence and everything, and it's saying a lot. There's a connection that's to do with Giancana and cocaine and all these things. You're seeing as the common denominator is Giancana and Hoffa. A lot of people just didn't realize messing with the underworld, which was dark and evil, might get you buried 6 feet under. So
right. Yeah.
We'll talk about much of that later. Okay.
Yeah. You know, I failed to bring it up. It was at the top of the presentation in the beginning, but on one of my rewatchings of The Irishman, which obviously talks about Hoffa and all of these mob experiences, Joe Pesci quotes a line where he states that that the mob went to the insurance company for loans because they could not go to the banks because the monies that they were looking to get loaned were not being used for goodwill. And so they couldn't actually borrow from banks. They used insurance companies. And that was a neat connection to the Fazio and that empire that was obviously price fixing, cheating the public, doing all of these things. But at the same token, in their annual report stated that they had a note owed to an insurance company. So it is following the lines of mob. You don't borrow from the insurance companies unless your money's not legit.
Yeah, and you don't pay people like big time lawyers with legitimate money. Just wait until you see the belay. Just wait until you see the belay envelope. Okay.
I wish I had that for today since we'd already passed it. Maybe we can get it on next week. So I'm showing that Donna Lass. I'm showing that Donna Lass.
Last night. So anyways, we'll get through there.
I show that Donna Lass was a nurse for Letterman General Hospital on Geary Street in San Francisco, where 2 others work that were murdered. And Paul Stein's last pickup of his killer on this street nearby. So I was pointing myself to research Jack's admittance of using Letterman General. The Letterman General Hospital also has a veterans care. That was consistent with the Albany Medical Center in New York. So we're seeing that crossover between murders that are happening within or around these particular VA hospitals.
Letterman General was in the Presidio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See? Yeah, no, I knew that there was a possibility that he would, and we know that he was dealing with, back issues, and he was in and out of the VA hospital, I think possibly due to the MK Ultra effects and the drugs and the things that were causing him to feel crazy, as the Dear Draft Board letters supported. But it is said that she was seen talking to a man who worked at the Sahara doing photography. I also thought this could be Jack as well. He would impersonate being a photographer. He's done it on many occasions. We heard the same thing from the Black Dahlia when she was taking the trip back to Chicago, Illinois to watch the Bill Hirons trial. And we know that I do believe that the lipstick killings were also committed by Jack Terrence. And she was said to have been traveling with a photographer. Again, someone named Jack is mentioned in regards to Black Dahlia. So it could definitely very well be that that is a ruse aside from maybe the security officer gig or the I'm going to help you with my tow truck gig or the many things that the Zodiac could have been to abduct his victims. Let's see. I did not show this one on the murder map, but I'm not sure that her remains were ever found, correct?
No. And I'm seeing that Jack moved them a couple of times over the years. So they were never confirmed to be found. But, I'd sure love to get some cadaver dogs out there. But,
right.
I'm losing people, except for me. Anyways, love you. You're all
here
now.
I didn't lose you. You're there. You're fine. Circumstances of the disappearance. Lass was last seen in South Lake Tahoe. She left her residence without her vehicle or personal belongings. Lass worked as a nurse at the Sahara Casino. Her last entry in the nurse's logbook was at 1:50 a.m. And although her car was found parked at her apartment complex in nearby state line, she wasn't seen after leaving the Sahara. The next day, an unknown male called her landlord and employer, stating Lass wouldn't be returning due to a family emergency. The call was a hoax, and there has been no trace of Lass ever since. Donna Lass, supposedly the last victim of the Zodiac. I don't know how they claim the last when they got a 13th victim card, and they believe that Donna Lass is the 12th, but though her body has never been found. A Zodiac letter gave clues to her body, but it has never been found. A few artifacts belonging to Lass were found in what appeared to be a shallow grave, but no body surfaced. So, a few artifacts belonging to her were found in what appeared to be a shallow grave. Does anybody have an idea of where those items were found?
Wasn't that the spot that Lawrence Swearingen had thought that he found the place of the shallow grave? I believe he did. So
really,
yeah. Speaking of that, I don't know. I got his book.
I don't know if they actively found anything. I know that the Hunt for the Zodiac documentary covered Lawrence Swearingen's solve of where to find Donna Lass. They did not indicate what they did find, but they didn't indicate to have found her body. So if this was at that point in time,
I think they found something. They had some dogs up there. I'm trying to remember all the stories, and I do have the book. Anyways, that they found something that was indicated that there was a person there at that location at one point buried, but it had been moved. So here I am a couple of years later. Jack is saying he moved her position, her body to another place. We went to the roundabout. It was at one point supposed to be there. And then there's another place, possibly right here at the North OHV. The remains were moved, and along with a couple of others. Not to be too macabre, but it is what it is.
It's fairly complicated to get your hands on ground imaging machinery or on cadaver dogs, but I would like to put a call out there to anybody who has access to a cadaver dog. Maybe they're retired cadaver dog. Who knows? That could still enjoy a little bit of a hunt or a chase to some of these locations that we've established to see what we could find. That would be amazing. That's the kind of help this case needs, is individuals who want to come forward, put in their time and effort to see something like this close. Say something, Nolan. Oh, he's saying something, but I can't hear him. Dang nabbit. All right, so I do have this in its right place at this point in time based on the time frame in which it was sent. We did already go over the Zodiac killer tips, Swamp Weary Police. I took a look at, again, both the solves by the period 19 that Orange Shack did and the Hardin solve. We were able to come up with at least a partial message in at least the one that was done with the Hardin's symbols, which was Zodiac, call Libra 4331077. So it actually came up with a phone number, and it's referring to the individual to call for Libra. This wasn't a huge hard code. They simply used the same exact symbols that the Hardin solved the initial Zodiac 408 cipher from. So I would assume that they would have recognized anybody in possession of this key would be able to have cracked this menial code that was in the newspaper. I just find it interesting that they're playing back and forth between the newspapers. And that, of course, led us into your solve, which we did also talk about, but I'll just reread that real quick. Zodiac, call Libra. You have exactly the same thing. So Zodiac, Darlene Farron used same last caliber at EO, Donna with the clever shot East State Line, Reno, Nevada. Is that Reno, Nevada?
East State Line. No, that's Richard Nixon. He's giving an execute order.
Well, Richard Nixon is RN is at the end of it. It says ESR Nevada, right?
Yeah, that's Richard Nixon. He's telling him.
No. You're not listening to me. RN is at the end. You see where it says ESR Nevada RN. What is ESR?
Oh, East State Line. East State Line. Ah, God, I can't read my own handwriting.
It's an R.
But it's an order. It's an execute order from Richard Nixon to kill her at the East State Line roundabout. At the East State Line.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. See where we went. See, there we go.
Right. And so, Darlene Farron, you same last caliber.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're garbled. And that brings me to Moonlight, who has obviously been searching for the missing and remains and trying to make the connections between those missing and remains, who truly believes that these remains that have been shown here in this picture that she sent me.
That's 1979, where they found the remains that turned out to be a small framed person, and that's in Santa Rosa area. That's a picture of the skull that was found, but I've done that evidence. It's a 1972 missing Canadian guy who was also an informant, who was helping, a list of people connected to what are called the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. And he ended up murdered himself. That is Dennis Arthur Simpson. That is Dennis Arthur Simpson. And I've tried to contact the authorities about that, but that's a skull that's from, that's not Donna Lass.
Okay.
That was found in Santa
but
Rosa.
it does make that connection to Santa Rosa and the Zodiac. So are you under the impression that the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders were completed by the Zodiac, or was that by someone else and the Zodiac just talking about them?
This happens. Can you hear me okay? Because everybody's freezing except for me.
I'm not freezing.
I turned down my microphone stuff or whatever. So maybe that's helping a lot. And I'm sitting farther away. But yeah,
all right, so
there's a lot of
CIA
stuff.
So my question, well, and we know with Bohemian Grove out there in Santa Rosa, they shut it down for a couple weeks out of every year in order for all of these high-profile leaders and military people and big business people to come and have their little camp-out sessions where they discuss things about how they're going to take care of the population or maybe even control them. Who knows? So maybe that was
there's
the
a symbolic owl. Okay.
Yes.
Anyways, keep going.
And the symbolic owl of Bohemian Grove, their headquarters are actually in San Francisco. So everything is tying right back into one nifty little circle. So my question was, did you believe that the Zodiac was responsible for the hitchhiker murders, or do you believe that part of the group is and the Zodiac just wrote about these?
No, he's involved with He didn't kill any of the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. He didn't purposely murder quite a few of those people. So, but it's.
What do you mean purposely?
Because he says, and I have the decodes. He says that there was an execute order to go after John and Reve Walsh, mainly Reve Walsh, because nothing was working. They were involved with killing a lot of these young girls. And so Jack was to go and get Reve Walsh. And because it was dark, he grabbed the wrong tied up girl. It's in the books. You're going to see it. It's very macabre and very disgusting. It's in the book. The main one, the gray one. It's definitely in there.
All right. So yes, I just received Harriet's new book, America's Most Evil. I have long since actually contemplated how one goes from losing a child to an abduction and murder to becoming one of the most high-profile individuals in the media, on TV, working with the FBI, unless there was some type of connection there. I mean, just how does somebody go from that, you lost a child abducted and murdered, to I now run one of the most popular shows on the syndicate that there is?
It's just absolutely disturbed. Anyways, who he got. He says the wrong person that he got, because it was dark. He thought that he was grabbing Rebe Walsh, but they had traded IDs with Jeanette Kamahili, and he grabs her, and you'll see it in the decodes. Oh my God. So he grabs her, and then he sends a message to Nixon through all these series of events, through the evidence, decoding the evidence that was in the newspapers. I'm going like this, all the wires carrying it to back east. Anyways, he said, Nixon, I goofed. I was supposed to get, Brevet, but I accidentally got Jeanette Kamahili. And he says he will get even and rip her son's head off on July 1981.
So he actually says getting even is going to be to abduct the Walsh's son.
Yeah, and it's Dan Rand Walsh, not Adam Walsh. There's another son. Dan Rand Walsh. There's another son. It's Dan Rand Walsh. And he's to abduct that kid and rip the son's head off in Florida. It's in the decoded missives. It's just amazing how they did this.
So who is the
evidence?
So how is it that they had another son, and why do they produce everything on Adam Walsh?
He says in the Scorpion ciphers, I'm like smiling at all of this, that he knew through his crew people that they were working with, that they staged, and this is going on right now with Megan Walsh, his daughter. She knows she was born afterwards, that it was staged. The CPS had staged the disappearance of Adam Walsh while they found the remains, the head of, it's Dan Rand Walsh. Really,
well,
really,
right. Well, we'll discuss that when we get when we get to those others. So, missing Tahoe nurse's family offers a reward. They stated that John Miller, a private investigator employed by the woman's family to continue the search for her, said the reward had been offered by the family. Miss Lass, 25, Lass was seen September 7th. So the days go back and forth. September 6th, September 7th. I don't even know. Walking with a young blonde man near the apartment she had rented the day before and never lived in. She left behind active file, but detectives have had followed every lead to a dead end. So the next day, the Sahara Tahoe and her landlords at Monte Verdi Apartments got calls from a man who said that Donna was ill and had left town on an emergency. So here's that follow-up phone call, just like we'd seen occurring with the Zodiac, to the victim's family members or to the police.
Go ahead. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Finally, it's all right. Now you guys are coming through loud and clear now too. I don't know what the deal was, but now it's good.
Beautiful. So deputies discount Zodiac as slayer of two here, they're saying, and it is sheriff's investigators Friday downgraded speculation linking the elusive Zodiac killer to two Sacramento murders, which they are now trying to bifurcate the nurse connection of the two nurses that are killed in Sacramento as it relates to Donna Lass being a nurse and going missing as well. They discounted news reports of possible connection between the Zodiac cases and the unsolved slayings of Sacramento's Judith Ann Hikari, 23, and Nancy Marie Belenak, 28. Certainly it is a possibility, but then anything's a possibility, said Lieutenant Jerry Salter, executive officer of the Patrol Division. He says, I don't expect that the Zodiac killer is involved in these two slayings, but in this instance, well, everybody's a suspect. The comments came on the heels of the Zodiac killer's return to the headlines Friday morning with the suggestion that his 12th victim is buried under the snow near Lake Tahoe. So clearly this is an article from March 27th of 1961, because we know that on March 22nd, I don't know why that says 61. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to say 71.
That's what I was looking at that too.
71, yeah.
Yeah, somebody messed that up. That's not my writing. I want to say I might have gotten something like that from a website, but it would have been March 27th, 1971, because we know that the 12th victim card was purportedly mailed March 22nd, 1971. So how does that play into your 1974 messages if the assertion by Dennis is that card mailed on March 22nd, 1971 in Pleasanton was mailed on the same day Jack was there for court?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, yes. Uh-oh. Yes, because you were stating that some of these communications have been perceived to have been written at a time earlier than you're finding or believe that they were actually written.
Yeah, that it's actually a different date. So it's all code, and especially using the newspapers. There's stuff being relayed in the newspapers. It's code, especially if it's UPI. So we may be thinking that it was sent such and such date, but you won't see it until later, like in the 1970s. They're saying, well, we believe this was sent at a certain date, and it wasn't. I mean,
well,
it's code here.
Okay, so that's not my question, and I'm not asking about code. I'm asking about how this relates to the time frame in which you're trying to state these communications were actually written in 1974, not in 1971, when Dennis makes the assertion that this 12th victim postcard was mailed from Pleasanton, which we see the postmark, on March 22nd, 1971, the same day Jack is in that area for a court date. All of his paperwork couldn't have been changed by anybody. You know, his court date is March 22nd, 1971. In fact, I'm going to get to that here real quick. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to point out in this particular one is that handwriting expert.
It's more than a coincidence. If he was in that town that day and it was mailed on that same day from that town, that's I think it's more than a coincidence.
I do too, but that also seals the deal for the time frame in which that card was written. And that's why I was posing the question to Harriet, because she is claiming that these things were written in 1974, when in fact the postmark is stating one thing, and it does coincide with Jack being there. That if that card wasn't written until 1974, then it doesn't coincide with Jack being there in Pleasanton.
In a weird way, I think I can answer your question better now. I'm seeing that no matter what Jack did, they were not going to have him arrested. So that might be that date may be referring to he was in that area, and there's some things that need to be looked into or revisited there.
Okay. I've only got a few more minutes since we've had all these issues, and I'm going to try and make it through some of this. In this particular article, it says handwriting expert Sherwood Morrill of the State Bureau of Criminal Investigation and Identification at Sacramento confirmed that the address on the front was in the Zodiac's handwriting. So we do have a handwriting confirmation by one of the top handwriting experts in regards to that 12th victim card. Mm-hmm. Of course, we now see on missing person on Tom Voigt's board. He says that Zodiac victim question, nothing solid connects Lass to the Zodiac case. He says, other than perhaps the fact that she was living just a few blocks from the scene of the Zodiac's October 11th, 1969 murder of Paul Stein in San Francisco. A postcard supposedly from Zodiac was received by San Francisco Chronicle on March 22nd, 1971, with the implication that Lass was a murder victim. However, the postcard contained no proof, as Zodiac was known for including. Furthermore, in 1999, a retired detective revealed to me that a former Zodiac investigator had committed to forging the Lass postcard. His conclusion, the facts indicate Lass was abducted after arriving at her apartment, which is behavior Zodiac never demonstrated. I'm calling BS. For him to state behavior that he has never demonstrated, who are you to predict what somebody's behavior is or will be, especially since they stated they're going to change their MO? And we have plenty of abductions. That is not a question here. And likely some of them can be tied back to the Zodiac.
And they didn't know that Jack was a suspect. And if they did, they would have known there was connections to Donna Lass and Tahoe.
Exactly. Yeah, at this point in time, when this is being printed on Tom Voigt's message board, of course, now he's trying to bifurcate Donna Lass as any part of the Zodiac case, and then to claim a former investigator admitted to forging the last postcard. That is the first time I've ever heard anything like that. But these guys will do anything to actually derail you from looking in the right direction.
There were allegations that Tashi, the San Francisco police detective, forged one of the Zodiac letters, but I don't think that was ever.
There wasn't. It wasn't proven true. They actually did exclude him. All of the research that I did on that, they tried to state that he had to kind of bolster and put himself in the limelight again. But the fact of the matter is that I find that both the letters that they are trying to claim are hoaxes are not hoaxes. They are clearly written by the same author. I've showed all of those handwriting characteristics that show that they were not forgeries. Again, just another way to dissuade us from putting the pieces together. Now, in 2000, I found this in Dennis's belongings when I visited Harriet. She had some of his work and research that he had done. So it was my first time getting to see some of these articles. But this one says, police suspect Tahoe case linked to Zodiac killer. Now, this is in 2000. Let me see. This article ran Thursday, November 16th of 2000. So well after. Now they're actually putting these things together. So it says South Lake Tahoe, her bathroom light was left on and there was no signs of a struggle. Piles of clothes lay neatly folded in her new apartment, but 25-year-old Donna Lass never came home to put them away. Lass disappeared in 1970 while working a late night shift at a State Line Casino nursing station. 30 years later, little progress has been made in solving the mystery, but South Shore detectives have been investigating Lass's case since August, thinking she might have been a victim of a serial killer who called himself the Zodiac. The killer sent dozens of letters to several California newspapers that began with the words, "This is the Zodiac speaking." They also were filled with astrological coded messages and threats written in capital letter English. In the letters, the Zodiac took credit for 5 murders, 2 attempted murders, and a kidnapping, all in California in 1969 and 1970. The self-proclaimed murderer made phone calls too. On September 27th, 1969, a man was audacious enough to call the Napa Police Department around 7 p.m. and claimed that 45 minutes earlier he had stabbed 2 people to death. 1 victim survived. But did this terrifying murderer ever come to South Lake Tahoe? Question mark. Yes, Jack came to South Lake Tahoe. Oh gosh. All right, you guys. I'm going to have to finish with this message later. We have 1 minute basically.
This is when, Dennis, this is when Jack had become the big suspect. This is when. So, of course, they're going to do this. And then you see the following year, they're really doing everything they can to destroy it.
And this particular article is going to talk about Tom Connor. Tom Connor, when we get to the rest of this article, which I think is extremely interesting, you are correct. This is when Dennis has introduced Jack as a suspect to Tom Connor of the South Lake Tahoe PD. And we've heard his audios in which he is very interested in Jack as the individual and the suspect. So I'm going to bid everybody farewell. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Nolan and Harriet, for being here. Hopefully we can try to work some magic with these headsets next time so we can be prepared.
Yes.
I'm not using mine now, and everything's perfect now. I don't know.
I know. We might just have to stick with it. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next Friday.
I have one last quick thing to say, just on the side.
Yes, go ahead.
That Detective Tashi, in the movie Bullet, Steve McQueen used his gun when they filmed the movie. Steve McQueen was a detective looking for a serial killer in San Francisco in the movie Bullet, and they used Tashi's gun. I don't know how that came about, but that's still interesting tidbit.
Hollywood, cocaine, hot fudge.
All right, you guys, we gotta go. Everybody take care. See you next Friday. Bye. Bye-bye.